All right. Hey, my friends, I am back again. We are going to have a great time diving into something that Jesus said is super important. He even says in Mark, you can read about in the Gospels, that he said, if you go to pray and you have this in your life, shut it down. Stop praying. Go deal with this one thing and then come back and pray. It's that serious. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I know some of you are thinking, hey, your lighting's way off. You look really red. No, it's because the guy who sits inside and works on the computer all day decided to spend his day with the family out on the water. It was family day yesterday, and I turned into a lobster. You should see it like right here. Let's see if I can show you. It's not even red. It's almost purple. It's bad. It's ugly. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about part 2. Life is hard. Teach your kids to pray. And so I want to go over this one thing that if you or your kids have in your life, Jesus says just shut down your prayer life. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to avail much power into the things that you are praying about. So what is that one thing? Some of you are starting to guess. Wait, I want to see it. I want to see. Comment on this video. What do you think that one thing is? I'm going to give you a few seconds to respond. So while you're typing those things out, let me tell you that this is things we're learning about in Root Bible Academy. It has been an amazing time growing with these kids and equipping their parents with tools to easily spiritually lead their homes. So things like this podcast, but on the website there's a whole lot more. So check it out, rootbibleacademy.com, and that's my little plug for that. So I don't see any comments yet. What's up? You guys are all, you don't want to answer the wrong thing. I know it. That's what, I used to do that as a kid as well. So let me tell you what it is. It's unforgiveness. That one little thing the Bible says can shut down your prayer life. Jesus himself, Mark 11:25, says, if you stand praying and hold anything against anyone, stop praying, go forgive them, and then come back. It is serious. I've known people that have struggled with this. I even had, like my great grandma, for example. I guarantee you, she did not start out in life as a young person or as a teenager saying, you know what, I want to grow up to be the kind of person that nobody likes to be around. I want to grow up, and in my older years, I want to be violently bitter and angry at everything and everyone, and finish my life that way. That would be the lasting ending memory that I was going to leave for all of my family and friends. There's no way she started that way. And yet she ended up that way because she continued to let unforgiveness stay in her life, and it skewed her perspective on her friends, on her family, on really all of life. She could tell you things that had happened to her 40 years ago that were bad, and the things that had really hurt her, and how people had mistreated her, and all these different things. But you ask her, hey, what's something good that's happened today or happened this week? She couldn't answer you because her mind had been so trained over the decades to focus on the negative that it never allowed the positive to dwell, and which is really sad. Because guess what? God doesn't dwell in those negatives. He doesn't. And so she exempted herself from the presence of God, from hearing his voice, from having powerful prayers. James chapter, I think it's James chapter 1 or chapter 5. Don't quote, it's chapter 5. Talks about how even unforgiveness, not releasing those things in your life, can even keep you from stepping into healing. It is one of the biggest things, and because it goes against who God is. And if we're really children of God, we need to learn to do the opposite of this. Opposite of unforgiveness, is forgiveness. But God's definition of forgiveness is way deeper and a lot harder for us to do naturally. Pretty much it's impossible. Everything in God's life that He has for us to do should seem impossible on our own. Why? Because He's inviting us into a real relationship where He's empowering us to do what no human being could ever do. Think about Jesus on the cross, right? They're nailing Him, and what does He say? Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. We can echo those words in a whole lot of situations, and it's going to make a lot of things better. There are a lot of times the things that we attribute as wrongs to ourselves were just not purposeful, not even understood that this could be an effect on you. And even if it was, our job isn't to right the wrongs. Instead, it's really to forgive. So what is God's definition of forgiveness? God's definition of forgiveness is releasing that person so that our thoughts and our emotions and our actions treat them as if we were never wronged. That's pretty powerful. Let me say that again. God's definition of forgiveness is releasing the other person releasing the other person so that our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions treat that other person as if we were never wronged. That's serious. And I know you're saying that's impossible. Guess what? It's not. And as Christians, we can live that way. If Jesus was able to live that way with the power of the Holy Spirit, giving Him the ability to do what would be impossible for any human being, guess what? We can as well. And so we need to train our kids up that when we go to pray, we got to do a self-check. Just like we do with communion, we're going to do a self-check. Hey, I'm going to prayer. Is there anything that I'm holding against anyone? For kids, sometimes it'll be against the parents. We've asked them to do something that they didn't enjoy doing, and instead of just releasing it, now they're starting to hold it in their heart. Could be against a friend, and even if it seems super minor, almost laughable to you, these are the beginning seeds that the enemy wants to use to set up a pattern of unforgiveness in their life. Even if it's minor, even if it's comical to you, we need to deal with these issues now so that these seeds that are planted aren't allowed to put in a root of negativity, of root of unforgiveness and bitterness into their lives. So what do? How do you get to that place where you can really choose to forgive someone that way, where you no longer think about that person negatively? You no longer have the emotions that stir up when you hear their name said or you hear something that they're doing and you're like, ugh. Get rid of that. That's not true forgiveness. And a lot of us, we can put on the actions, but the insides are what matter most to God. And so, how do we deal with that? It comes down to loving like Jesus did. He chose to love in impossible situations. We can do that as well. So what does that look like? One of the easiest ways is start with your prayer life. Start with asking God to bless those that you feel or the thought has been planted that they have done you wrong. Pray for wisdom for them. I'm not talking about negative, like, God, they need your wisdom to understand how horrible they are treating people. Give them people in their life that they'll actually listen to, that will help them stop being so evil and so unkind and unjust, and they're just atrocious people. Bring people, and that's not going to work. But when we choose to receive God's love for them and pray out blessings upon them, it changes our heart, our mind, and our attitudes towards that person, so that when our actions are inspired towards that person, it's not from a root of deceit or a root of putting something on that isn't true, but it's really initiated from a heart of genuine love towards that person. And that's where you're going to see God do the impossible. Not to mention, it opens up your prayer life. Real power begins to be added into that. Not to mention that it causes healing in our bodies. Did you know that there's been a number of medical studies that show that bitterness, unforgiveness, holding grudges actually causes sicknesses? It does. And so we got to teach our kids to release this through praying. So here's your action point for today. When you're praying together as a family, maybe it's around the breakfast table, maybe it's at bedtime, maybe it's even around the dinner table. You bring up this little conversation. Hey, is anybody having a tough time forgiving somebody? Is anybody holding something against someone else in their heart? And then give them a real life example, a time from when in your life you had a tough time releasing someone that had done something bad to you. Talk about it as a family, and then deal with it in prayer. Go around the circle. Go around every family member. Begins to pray a blessing. Pray for the benefit and the prosperity and the health and the wisdom for this offender. And you're going to start to see hearts and minds, emotions change. You'll be able to, not because you're putting on something, well, kind of, yeah, I guess you are. You're putting on the mind of Christ. You're putting on the armor of God. You're putting on the fruit of the Spirit. You're putting on Him. And that's where we want to teach our kids to live, even when somebody does something against us that's hard. All right, that's it for me today. I hope this was a real blessing to you. If so, please share this video, subscribe to this page, even share this page with other people. That really helps us get the word out. Our goal is to reach 1,000 new families this year, and not just reach them so that they see a video once, but really begin to spiritually equip them, the whole family, to grow together spiritually. And if you want to be a bigger part in that, then go on our description. You can see there's a link for partnering with us. 100 partners. We're believing for 100 partners at least $35 a month. Now, if you can give less than that, we are still ecstatic to receive that monthly partner. But we're looking for 100 new partners so that we can even further reach this world with real truths and equip families to grow together spiritually. It's so powerful. So consider that, but don't forget, action point. Some point today, ask the whole family, is there anything you're holding in your heart against anyone? And then deal with it in prayer by praying a blessing over that person. All right? That's it for me. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to dive into a tip, or one of the things in prayer that God says, Jesus himself says, is very important, and yet a lot of people don't understand it. And so we think we're doing it, but we're really not. And that gets us into more ineffective prayers. So check it out tomorrow. I'll be with you then. But for right now, that's it. I'll see you all later. Bye.